welcome to the International Desk. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We begin with the increasing bloodshed in Israel and the Palestinian territories as Palestinian groups declare a day of rage across the region. Multiple attacks on Tuesday have left at least 3 people dead. It's just the latest in weeks of escalating violence between Palestinians and Israelis, stemming from tensions over a key holy site. And now Israel is considering new security measures, including closing off Palestinian suburbs in East Jerusalem. Senior international correspondent Ben Wedeman is following all the developments, and he joins us now from Bethlehem in the West Bank. Ben, Hamas has praised the attacks, calling the perpetrators heroes. Is that sentiment fueling unrest?
Well, certainly we've heard that in the past when attacks have happened, that Hamas did praise the attackers, but it's important to note that they did not claim responsibility. And it seems that so far no organizational links have been made between anyone involved in this wave of attacks and either Hamas or Fatah or Islamic Jihad or any other organization. And it seems a lot like what we're seeing here, which is ongoing clashes in Bethlehem, that it's really a spontaneous thing that has happened for a variety of reasons. But certainly when you listen to the Israelis, they are accusing not only Hamas, but the Palestinian Authority, as well as the Islamic movement inside Israel, of inciting people to violence. But we understand today, for instance, that in other parts of the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority has sent out a message to cool it down. But that message doesn't seem to have arrived here in Bethlehem.
That's
Lynda?
Certainly not the case. And Ben, as this violence continues, some are suggesting that this could be the beginning of a third intifada. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, we've seen flare-ups like this in the past. Last year, at about this time, a similar flare-up. So it's difficult. I mean, you'll be able to determine whether it's an intifada, the third intifada, or not, depending on how long it goes on. Keep in mind that the economy of the West Bank is in very bad shape. People need to actually get back to work. Now, there are calls, for instance, for a general strike. Life gets more and more difficult if there simply is no work to be had. And unlike previous, for instance, the second intifada was an intifada that was very much run by various factions, Fatah, Islamic Jihad, Hamas. This intifada doesn't seem to have, if this is an intifada, I should say, doesn't have any leadership. All the attacks that have happened in Jerusalem and elsewhere in Israel seem to be done by lone wolf, self-motivated people. And therefore, until there's some sort of organizational structure and pattern to what we're seeing, this outbreak of clashes and attacks, it's still premature probably to call it an intifada.
And then Israel is considering new security measures. Just take us through the options they're looking at.
Well, it's important to keep in mind how few options we really have. Keep in mind this: Israel in 2004, 2005 began construction of the security barrier, which did to a certain extent stop suicide bombers from reaching Israeli towns and cities. It's got the Iron Dome, which has been very effective at stopping rocket attacks from Gaza into Israel. But when it comes to these lone wolf, self-motivated attackers with no factional connections, it's very difficult to gather intelligence to be able to anticipate this sort of attack. So we understand, for instance, that Israel is talking about sealing off certain neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. For instance, Jebel Mukabbar is a neighborhood in East Jerusalem where 3 of the attackers today come from. We were there in the village of the suburb of Jebel Mukabbar, where we saw a heavy Israeli security presence, where they were stopping all cars coming in and out of the area, but they weren't actually stopping it. Now, I'm going to step aside now. What we just saw is this Israeli Jeep. I think it's a border police Jeep. It is equipped with a multiple launcher for tear gas canisters, and what they do is they will fire it. I think it's got about 20 to 30 canisters on it, and they will fire it into the crowd that's about 300 meters down the road from us. It's very effective at temporarily dispersing, but so there you go, Linda. This is a normal scene. Somebody's throwing a Molotov cocktail at the direction of that Jeep. And now the air is thick with this very strong tear gas, which is fortunately not blowing in our direction at the moment. Linda?
And Ben, since this latest wave of violence began, how often are you seeing these sort of scenes where you've got them firing tear gas to disperse the crowds?
This is every day for the last few days, all over the West Bank, from Hebron in the south to Nablus in the north, and everywhere in between. This seems to be, today has been declared by Palestinian groups as a day of rage. Now, we had a day of rage also last Friday. So yes, this is a very common occurrence, and it's important to keep in mind an increasingly common occurrence that you're seeing, because what you are seeing is once more the people of the West Bank and Jerusalem in revolt against an Israeli military presence that's gone on for 48 years. Linda?